Welcome everyone to the Tech City Infrastructure for a Connected World panel. Here in the Qatar Economic Forum, combining fantastic speakers, all experts at various topics within this area of discussion, which are the next steps in building the smart cities of tomorrow. Joining us today is Lana Khalaf, General Manager at Microsoft Qatar, and Sheikh Hamad bin Abdullah Al Thani, CEO of Vodafone Qatar, Alvin Ang, Vice President of Digital Solutions in Asia Pacific at Johnson Controls, Lawrence Stein, Chief Financial Officer at Pony, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdullah bin Mohammed Al Thani, Deputy Group CEO and CEO of Ooredoo Qatar, and of course, Helmut von Struve. Okay, there we go, I got it. CEO of Siemens Middle East. And we have His Excellency Martin Kupka, Minister of Transport of Czech Republic, and Sina Lawson, Minister of Digital Economy and Transformation of Togo. And I'm Farah Al-Bahrawi, Deputy Team Leader of Equities at Bloomberg News, and I will be helping guide this discussion, again, about the cities of tomorrow. I do want to start this conversation with an overview of your outlook on this topic. So if you could, put into words what you think the cities of tomorrow will look like. What are the opportunities and the trends that we can make use of? And what you are doing to help develop the city of tomorrow. Lana, if you could get us started.
Sure. First, thank you. Thanks a lot, and great to be in the presence of amazing leaders and experts today. Definitely, to be honest, one of the key trends we see is the rise of technology, digital natives, and how citizens and everybody and people in countries are expecting us to engage with them as countries and governments and organizations. And this switch to digital divide or digital era and the different citizen engagement that is required from countries for the smart cities of the future with the rise of technology, because technology today can help solve urbanizational challenges and the citizen engagement and drive this transformation across different sectors. This is why today this becomes very essential, and today we can actually drive and really say we can contribute to driving a sustainable, resilient, secure, smart city for the future. Now, we also need to be very careful, because with this we need to balance the social, economic development with the environmental protection. And this is key, and this is why we always say sustainable smart city for the future. And these are the key trends between technology, digital natives, digital experience, and the effect of technology that can affect smart cities.
Thank you so much. Sheikh Hamad, if you could start us off.
Yes, first of all, thanks for having me. To be honest, a smart city topic is very close to my heart. I have been thinking about it for a long time, even when I was in school. But to be honest, I think there is a misunderstanding, at least regionally, or confusion or mix-up between digital transformation, automation with a smart city, where I think a lot of people think digital transformation is actually smart city. Maybe it's a prerequisite for any smart city. And even automation, it's basically can be thought about as the first or the most basic layer of any digital smart city enhancement. However, I think for a smart city to be a reality, the smart city needs to hear, they need to see, they need to feel, and they need to understand their surrounding or be aware of their surroundings by sensors or any other means. And those types of information is going to be put in a meaningful format that is going to be transported later into data centers via a reliable network, which we all have now. And then later, those data centers is going to act, or cloud services is going to, how can I say this one, exercise on it or manipulate the data, analyze it, and turn it into a useful information that can take them back to smart city, and the smart city will be able later to take those proposals, execute it, and achieve its proposals or their targets of actually reducing either cost, enhancing people's lives, sustainability, and saving costs, such as cutting traffic by 30%, and lower the, let's say, the munitions, and so many other applications. So it will be really interesting to see how my colleagues is looking after the people who are attending here to look at the smart city from different perspectives.
Thank you so much. You're bringing up a lot of fascinating topics that we will be discussing later on in this discussion. But Alvin, if you could walk us through how you apply what you do into smart cities and the opportunities and trends.
Sure. So maybe let me define smart cities or the cities of tomorrow in two ways, right? I think the first way, it's what I call human-centric. I think cities of tomorrow need to be able to sense and respond, and therefore personalization, creating new engagement, what Lana said earlier, driving new experiences in terms of wellness is becoming very critical. So the ability to sense and respond to humans and be able to live in that, creating that experience and engagement is critical. The second thing, cities of tomorrow needs to be data-led and AI-led. And I think, Lawrence will talk about AI later, but it should be data and AI-led. And here's the biggest reason why. Because your ability to harness data and unlock that value really begin to create new and differentiated value proposition for the city in terms of how you are more sustainable, because now you can measure in terms of your decarbonization and your carbon footprint, but more importantly, creating new sustainable business model innovation as a result of data. And that's what I believe, right? Human centricity and data is what's going to drive. And what we are doing here at Johnson Control, we partner very closely with Microsoft as well to really create new capabilities in those areas that drive human centricity and that give the capability to harness data.
Fascinating. Again, we'll go into depth into everything you're all bringing up, but just a little bit later. Lawrence, please walk us through your vision.
Sure. And there have been some big themes that have been laid out here and some big ideas. At Pony, we're focused very specifically on one small part of the smart city, but I think a very important part, which is how do we move goods and how do we move people safely, efficiently, low emissions, equitably from one part of a city to another part of a city. And I think what's incredible from my perspective is we're on the cusp in our corner of this world of an amazing revolution where we're now starting to introduce these deep learning, smart cars, smart trucks that can move these goods and services, that can create a safe environment, that can give cities that have traffic issues the ability to move efficiently, to take people out of traffic jams, to make services available to people who might otherwise not have it. And this is all happening in 2022. By 2023, 2024, you're going to see this connected part of the city, the ability to move goods and services efficiently, completely different than it is today. And so Qatar is one of the cities or one of the countries on the cutting edge of some of the thought work, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Sheikh Mohammed, please, it would be great to get your vision as well.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here to be among the distinguished guests. I think it's going to be a very insightful session today. Honestly, how we look at smart cities today, we are envisioning that as a part of the Qatar vision and to be a smart nation. And today, we as a service provider, we look at how we can provide the accessibility and connectivity for that connected infrastructure. And this is through, honestly, that's something I think will come in the due course, talking about the technology that we are providing, either from a wireless or even as a fiber. Today, when we look at the smart city, I think this is something we look at from a perspective, how it will improve the quality of life for people from social perspective, economical, and health. And that's very important how we connect that each other. And then this is also will serve the community to be a better served community, and how this will drive different verticals of the communities to be better served and also safer communities. That's how we look at a smart city and how we can really be in a good partnership either with international consortiums or also through some government partnership. And that's something we will explain later, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will. Helmut, please, and I'm sorry again if I got your last name wrong.
Absolutely okay. Now, thank you very much. And again, also from my side, thanks for having me on this esteemed panel. If you look at smart cities, let's take one step back. Look at urbanization. This is one of the key trends that we are seeing nowadays, and climate change and globalization. So smart cities is one area that can help us to really address the mega trends of the future. And if I look at, and you were asking, how do you see the future of cities? I don't want to see it congested, dirty, full of waste, and with high crimes. And Elvin, you said it, it's human-centric. So human centricity is one of the key themes, making it sustainable for the future generations. And I mean, our company Siemens, we are now in the 175th year, and we want to transform with our technology the everyday. And this is the technology that we also provide to make cities smarter, to provide the technology together with our partners that are here on together on the table, to showcase what can technology do in order to provide really a safe environment that is also considering the topic of data security, cybersecurity, and general address the issue of waste, be it on the electricity side, that you reduce the losses that you have in the distribution system, or also on the water side, how you detect leakages. And then we're working together with our partners to provide this technology to be able to transform it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Martin, please do walk us through your vision.
Thank you very much for the floor. I'm sincerely happy to be part of this conference and to meet with you in a beautiful city of Doha. I'd like to present the transport issues not only from the point of view of the Czech Republic, but also from the point of view of the European Union, because we are at the beginning of the period of Czech presidency in the European Union. And I'm sure that the European Union, the whole Europe, has really strong ambitions in decarbonization of transport. And I'm sure it's necessary to balance also with the interest of affordable mobility and the smart mobility, which is the way to maintain also the mobility for all people in our cities and our states. And I think it's necessary for cohesive society, for keeping cohesive society. And I'm sure that it's really a strong task for us to bring the solution which will be based on the new technologies, on the data and the big data also. And I'm really appreciate that the Czech Transport Ministry has also responsibility on space program. And I'm sure that in the future, it will be a really very close connection between mobility and the secure data and secure connectivity, which will be based on satellite systems and mega constellation, and in using the new technologies and the new possibilities, which are based on close cooperation between entrepreneurs, companies, and also research teams and scientists.
Fantastic. I'm sure as well. Thank you so much for your vision. And Sina, please, last but not least.
Thank you very much for having me here. When we think about smart cities in Africa, in Togo and in Africa, we have to keep in mind that we have few numbers that are very important. Half of our population is less than 18 years old, and 3/4 of the population is less than 35 years old. So we have an emergency or an urgency to think about the future for this young generation, but not only in terms of smart cities, but smart countries. Because what happens oftentimes is that if you want to build your own future, you leave wherever you are from to go to cities. And we need to avoid that from happening. And in terms of what we do in Togo, for example, our vision is really to deploy fiber optics everywhere. I know that when we talk about telecommunications and digital in Africa, everybody thinks about mobility, and that has worked. But we think that if we want to move our countries into the future, we need really to increase connectivity. So we've been doing that, saying what we're going to do is that wherever we have power lines, we need to deploy fiber at the same time. And we called it convergence between digital and energy. We also need to have better international connectivity. You know that Google, for example, has deployed and is deploying a subsea cable around Africa. Facebook is doing the same with To Africa. So Togo was the first country to land the Google Equiano subsea cable. I also think that, so it's going to be a combination of things, and it's important to say that it all starts with the infrastructure, because it's true you've been talking about AI and other things, but we need to have the infrastructure in Africa. So it's a combination, it's going to be a combination between fiber optics and, of course, satellites in some areas. So you see the vision is to go beyond cities, to make sure that everyone, because you said it's human-centric, everyone is included in our territories, in our country. So that's number one. I think that it's also important to say that it needs to serve a purpose. And our vision for digitizing, for digital transformation of Togo is one of inclusion, So it's true that when people talk about inclusion, we think about health, we think about education, we think about how to simplify people's lives. In the Middle East, for example, in Qatar, in other countries, the administration is very well digitized, so you don't need to go to see in every department when you need to access a public service. So it's also our vision in Africa to move to this type of relationship between citizens and the public sector, where you don't actually, it's not a hassle to fill a form, etc. So we've been working on it. In terms of saying that half of our population is less than 18 years old, we have a pressure in terms of education, and it's very important to use AI, for example, for education. During the pandemic, we were able, working with Berkeley in the US, to map out our country to determine the poorest district of Togo. And I think that when we talk about all these new technologies, it's something that we need to address in Africa. But what I want to say is that we're actually using these technologies as well to solve our problems, because it's never about the technology, it's always about the people, So AI and everything you've been talking about is very relevant for your part of the world, but it's also very relevant for our part of the world, and we've been using it. And in terms of, for example, talking about data, for example, data centers, we're seeing a lot of investment right now in data centers, because investors are understanding that the future will be, of course, in Africa, and that there will be a lot of data collected. So this industry is fast growing on our continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sina. Ghassan, thank you so much for joining us, a general manager at Google Cloud. I was wondering if you could walk me through what your vision for the smart city of tomorrow is, and what are the opportunities and trends that you are bringing over at Google into this discussion.
Thank you so much, and sorry for being late. But yeah, the security check, it's been more than 50 minutes on the security check, unfortunately. So yeah, when it comes to Google Cloud, it's really great to have signed the first collaboration agreement for us in the Middle East, Turkey and Africa and Qatar, to launch our region in Qatar. And this will bring a lot of opportunities, especially if we look about the national vision 2030 for Qatar, related to the human development, the social development, the economic development, and the environmental development. When we will be launching a data center, there is a lot, because when it comes to the base of the smart city, is all related to technology, and the technology being developed more and more, the cities have more and more responsibilities to adhere, and this is the core of the urban development. So, as Google, when it comes to infrastructure, the core, the infrastructure, the technology, this is something that we'll be leveraging while having our region in Qatar. Also having more and more on the data side, on the IoT data points, IoT, smart, the smart things. This is where we will be able to collect the right data, to have the right analytics and AI, because this is something that we are really strong at, and we are keen to deliver it in our region and here in Qatar, to be able to get more and more services out of it for the citizens, because this is what will be the main discussion for any government, the citizens and the government deliverables. So also there are a lot of discussions also on the people and process. So what we've done, we were able to also launch the Center of Excellence 1 year back in the Qatar Economic Forum last year. And this is also to enable more and more people on the ground, on the cloud adoption and the use of the smart technologies in Qatar. And we had for the last 1 year more than 4,000 participants. And this will enable more and more push in the market for the smart cities.
And I'm looking forward to the future where this really starts to come to life. I think you've all brought up really fascinating points, and I've just been jotting down some common words amongst all of you. The one I'd really like to hone in on right now is partnership, collaboration, cooperations, and just before the panel, you were all chatting, and you're getting to know each other. So how about we get into a little bit more, and I'm sure this will also benefit a lot of our audience coming here into Qatar to see where they can collaborate with other companies as well for the future of that human-centric future that we're all discussing right now. So, Alvin, you were talking about the collaboration with Microsoft. Can you, again, focus a little bit more on the importance of collaboration in building smart cities and the infrastructure for them?
Sure. So as we kind of think of smart city, you need to think of it as a large system, right? And we firmly believe that the future is what I call ecosystem orchestration. You want to be a company, you want to create value by building partnership because you want to orchestrate the entire. And here's the reason why, right? Because the complexity of what needs to be done to harness data and unlock that value, no one company can do it alone. You need partners to contribute to that value. And I always say this loudly, that by being the smartest in a room, you never win. But by being the fastest learner in a room, you win. And therefore, it's all about that collective intelligence. And this is why you build ecosystem, because you want to harness that collective intelligence and that collective capability of all the partners in the room.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more that you can't do everything on your own. I'd like to look at our ministers right now, look at it from a government perspective. Martin, where does collaboration become really important for you as a government?
Definitely, I absolutely agree with you, and I'm sure that it's not only for companies, and it's the same for all states. And for example, we really feel that the future will be also about public transport more than now, and then it's necessary to collaborate and to cooperate with the other states, because all these connections are but through the borders. It's necessary to stand not against, but in cooperation with the other states. It's absolutely crucial point. And I'm also sure that the electromobility not will push us, but it's really is pushing us to creating the system and also the net of charging points in the whole Europe. And I'm sure that it will be the same in the other part of the world.
Sheikh Mohammed, I know you have something to add. Please feel free.
So I would like to say a few things just to introduce about the government. I think when talking about the smart cities, yes, it's an ecosystem, and a partnership is really it's a main pillar for enhancing and improving and providing these smart cities. And today you have to look as where you coming from, either private sector or public sector. Today, if we are coming from private sector, we always look at there should be a partnership with the public sector and also partnering with international consortiums. And today, I would like just to give an example. Today, from Ooredoo, we are quite proud of our partnership with the Minister of Communication and Information Technology, as long as also with some international consortium. And today, we are providing a platform called TESMO, and this is a very it's a country smart city platform. And today we have a very good discussion about also live use cases. And one of these, use cases, we're talking about smart parking. And this is, live as we speak today. So it's a real, you have to find the right partnership, and you go hand in hand, private sector with the public sector, and onto finding the right partners across the globe. And this will enhance, improve the quality of the life. And the data also is a key here, because if you have that data among the government and the private sector, how you govern that securely and how you can exchange these data among these use cases. And today the platform that we are having, it's really playing a key role for connecting and integrating the government data and having, engaging the government, engaging all the public sector and the private sector to provide more, let's say, sustainable community for the country. This is how I would, see the partnership really play a good role for that.
Absolutely. I was just looking at TESMO, preparing for this panel, and it's fascinating. I mean, Qatar is, a relatively smaller area, so I think that's where it can really start shining by taking strides on that front. In Togo, how have you applied those partnerships? You've really spearheaded the digital acceleration there, Sina, so please walk us through that.
Yes, in Togo, we did it in partnership with the private sector because in terms of when you talk about digital transformation, there is the issue of speed of execution. And so the way we do usually is that we partner with the private sector. We're there in the partnership. We need to be there because when you talk about telecommunications, you talk about digital, these are areas that are regulated. So so that's number one. Number two is that we also want to be part of transactions because we're here to de-risk whatever transaction. And I think it's important too. So, for example, when we were thinking of setting up cybersecurity capabilities, we wanted to be efficient from day one. And the way we did it was that we created an agency. Then we said, in terms of operations, we need to have a company operating, cybersecurity services on behalf of this agency. So we created a JV with a Polish company to be able to provide the state with cybersecurity services. We were a majority shareholder in this joint venture, but the private company came in to not only invest in it, but bring expertise and manage part of the services. So that's number one. In other areas, for example, we're willing to be minority shareholders. We did it for to manage the Google subsea cable. We did another joint venture, this time with yet another company where we're shareholders. We own 44% of the company, and 56% are owned by the private sector. So I think that these are the type of models that you will see happening a lot in Africa because it's important for us to be there. We have to be sure that our interests are aligned because it's true that the private sector executes very well, but we need to make sure that we're looking towards the same direction. So that's why we also want to be present in these transactions.
Sheikh Hamad, I believe you also have something to add to the table.
Yes, I would like to compliment on what Her Excellency and Sheikh Mohammed mentioned about the partnership between public sector and private sector. But there is another thing that I would like to highlight that mainly related to our region and other regions in the world, which is the partnership between policymakers, regulators, and the private sectors, where they need to work and to ensure that the environment for there is a healthy environment for the innovation. And I'm not going to shy about it. I'm not talking about Qatar. I'm talking about many regions in the world where basically things sometimes, unfortunately, when there is a new innovative idea, things by default is not allowed unless there is a policy or a regulation to regulate it. Where if you have in other modern economies in the world, such as the US, etc., where everything is allowed unless there is a law says no, it's not allowed. And sometimes, we have policymakers here that sometimes passing a law takes years. And after 2 years, the innovative idea either already become a norm in 2 years' time, and this is a problem, and maybe it will be stolen, or maybe you will lose the talent, the innovative talent here, to going to the more advanced economy. Thanks in Qatar, we are more toward opening up, and we have a faster pace. But I think if we are talking about the region, this is something that we need to address immediately. Everything, sometimes in a certain area or region, most of the things, by default, not allowed unless there is a policy. We need to flip this.
You bring up a really interesting point, Ghassan. Do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, for sure. It's really great point from Sheikh Hamad regarding the policies, because the policies usually needs to make things work for us. And I was really very happy last 2 weeks back that the MCIT with the CRA, there were the release for the cloud framework policy. And previously there were the safe harbor also approved, and there will be many more from the Qatari government, many more regulations related also to the data trust law and many other aspects. This will facilitate, even when we talk about smart cities and innovation and creativity in the country, will facilitate and boost the engagement and boost more and more to bring more and more technological vendors and big companies to come and invest in Qatar, because this is what we really care about. And talking about the partner ecosystem, this will facilitate also more having not only vendors, having really the full ecosystem. And here I can talk about Google. When we are having a region launch, we'll be having a lot of our partners and expert partners that can come and deliver use cases in Qatar and in the region. And this is where we'll be able to make a difference if we'll have the proper structure between the government and the private sector.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I'd like to, look at Pony, and you're operating in 2 countries, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, China and the US.
Right. So how do you see that, growing down the future in terms of, again, those partnerships, and how fast or how slow is that progress going?
Well, and I absolutely agree with what Sheikh Hamad said, that this question of regulatory engagement is so critical when you're introducing new technologies and introducing a concept that doesn't really exist. So if you think about how we see the world, the car, the sensors, the software, that's what the private world does. That's what the private companies do. Everything about taking a driver out of a car, putting it on roads where there are other people on the roads, putting it in a community, that's where the regulators and the government and the state get involved. And if the regulations and the state aren't constructive and they don't want the development, you have to balance the safety versus the need for development, because we need to have an autonomous future to be able to deliver these services and this logistical efficiency. We need a regulatory path. We need a government path that is constructive and engaged. So we work very closely with regulators at both local and national levels. We talk to countries around the world about what's their regulatory path. How do they see this? The world of autonomy is very exciting, because as it works and as you make these cars happen, you can create these efficiencies, these networks, but we really need partnerships with regulators. It will not work for our industry to succeed without regulatory agreement about how do you balance safety, how do you balance the desire for development So we spend a lot of time working, as does our whole industry, to create a construct of how can we fit into that regulatory framework. But it's absolutely critical. The role of the private sector in what we do is a small fraction of what we need from the state and from regulators to create a path forward that works for everyone, including everyone else who we share roads with.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Again, based on what we were just discussing, and I am looking at where I come from in Egypt, instead of rather focusing on making Cairo a more smart city, the government is constructing an entirely new capital. That really has brought me thinking, do we have to sort of start all over again, or is there hopes of modernizing older cities like Cairo that's been around for quite a while? I think a lot of you could be able to address this, but maybe Sina, you can speak to that because you had firsthand experience.
Thank you very much. I think that I don't know enough about what is happening in Egypt, so I won't comment on that. But
not Egypt in particular, but
yes,
don't worry about that.
But the ministry that I had is the Ministry of Digital Transformation. So it's really about transforming the existing cities and territories that we have. And it's true that we need to have a vision and a plan. So a lot of governments are right now developing master plans for the way they view the new cities, and I think that's also what we've been doing in Togo in terms of providing everyone with biometric IDs, redesigning even schools, the education system, the infrastructure. These are things that are very new. So I think that there is a way, of course, which requires to design new plans for cities. And so we've been, even at our level in Togo, we've been doing just that. It's tedious, but the advantage of doing it in 2022 is that we can use satellite imagery, which was not the case 2 decades ago. So it's also very helpful. We're using new tools to have a better sense of our territories.
Thank you so much. And Helmut, with a company as massive as Siemens, in terms of, when clients come to you with these issues, how do you help work around them, and how can we build that infrastructure for that smart future?
Thank you. And just allow me to say one thing on the topic of existing infrastructure and future infrastructure. And then I think one of the key points is also to be able to upgrade existing infrastructure. If you give you an example, when you talk about, smart cities, that also goes along smart industry. If you have cities, you need people that, and you said it, that you need to have jobs. So what we, for example, did with our own factories is we have one factory in Germany, which set up in the 1980s. And since then, it has been continuously upgraded to a way that the production has increased 16 times without touching the footprint of the factory. So the footprint of the factory stays the same. Energy efficiency is key, and production flexibility is key. And it goes also along the lines of co-creation, working together in an ecosystem, providing solutions that you deploy, like what we do with Ooredoo, like what we do with Microsoft here, as an example in Qatar, that we can deploy locally and then scale it up and utilize it, and also in other regions. So using existing technology, and what we, for example, also do is creation of virtual twins. So getting the real world into the digital world, creating a virtual twin, and then deploy it again into the real world. So you simulate new developments before you actually have to move a single a block or stone or something like this, in order to make sure that you do it with the least harm towards the environment and with the most efficient outcome. So this is something that we really are driving, and hopefully also be able to contribute then to the better of the future.
Hopefully, indeed.
Maybe can I add something?
Absolutely.
To be honest, Egypt's example is a very good example, but I'm going to mention something maybe not related to smart city, but it's relevant somehow. For example, Vodafone Group have launched a payment system called M-Pesa in Tanzania. It was one of the most successful payment systems there. Why? And they launched it somewhere else. It didn't succeed, but it was successful in Tanzania because there was the need for that. Okay, so I believe countries as big as Egypt with this big population, definitely they can benefit from smart city applications. And smart city doesn't have to be expensive. And that's why we have wireless. To be honest, any smart city, the new city that you mentioned, definitely fiber will be the most efficient and more secure one to do that. But now we have 5G, we have other technologies which can transform any city into a smart city, but not for the sake of luxury, because some people think that a smart city needs to have, automated. You can turn the light on, up and down. Off and on, off by your mobile. No, it should bring value. It should reduce your cost. It should enhance the life of the people. It should actually help you to optimize your power and water. So I think actually Egypt example is one of the best examples that you can use today's technologies and implement it, especially with the hyperscaler now available, where most of the modules already available there. So the barrier of entry is so low now.
That's really interesting. Lana, please.
Thank you, Farah. First, amazing, because I think bringing all of this together, to be honest, if you want to say, how can I drive smart city of the future, especially in different countries across different, it is, everybody said it. I just want to summarize it. It is, how can we utilize a scalable, evergreen, secure, robust infrastructure? And this is where hyperscalers, for example, can bring this from a technology. Telcos can bring this from a connectivity, whether from fiber to 5G to satellites, empowering different areas and enabling other cities so that they don't migrate to and over-urbanize existing cities. Also, we have experts like Siemens, GCIs, and others, where they can utilize IoT and data and AI, artificial intelligence, that can enable business decision and data insights, which are key to developing smart cities of the future. Last is one topic, maybe, I know we touched on regulation and policies, I want to drive on that, but it's also very, very critical to talk about open data platform and policies, because okay, we drive a secure, robust infrastructure. We do all the connectivity and provide all the advanced technology, but also we need to monetize all of this and drive a scalable, sustainable, smart cities of the future. And this is where open data platform will unleash innovation, drive the ecosystem, startups, entrepreneurs, etc. It will fuel innovation and growth. Having the right policies and regulations are key, of course. And this is why the power of all comes together. I think we have the power of all today on the table, but this is where the power of all comes together in order to unleash literally the sustainable smart city of the future. When Microsoft came to Qatar, I'll leave it to you, to open the data center in Qatar, seriously, one of there were, I think, more than providing technology and all the advanced services for Qatar, to provide this to Qatar, smart city of Qatar, to Tasmu, to Tawteen, to different sectors in the country, to the region and the globe. But also we worked together locally with telcos. We worked together on the Digital Center of Excellence to enable digital skills for everybody in Qatar. Enabling more than 15,000 people per year. We worked on the regulations for 2 years now, because the regulations are key. We have, as Ghassan said, we have the cloud security policy, which, by the way, Microsoft have announced this was the most advanced security policy in the world. Qatar have released it. It's super amazing. I think other countries need to take advantage of this policy that was announced. Same as trusted data laws, because Qatar is becoming a digital hub for everybody, not only in Qatar.
Please, Sheikh Mohammed, yes.
About what Lana is saying, and I would like to second what she said. And then she mentioned about the connectivity, and also one of the colleagues mentioned about the wireless or the 5G. Yes, we, as a service provider or connectivity provider, I think the example that you gave of that city, I think there is an asset, which is a golden asset, which is the fiberization. I do support the vision of fiberizing the country, because it's a golden asset, and the reliability of that asset or technology is enormous, because you will never work the wireless without complemented by the fiberization. Today, even in the 5G site, if you don't have that backhauling fiberization, that you will not have that reliability on customer experience. Today, the connectivity that you just mentioned, I think fiberization and have that mentality is a key for developing these type of countries. And back to the regulations, I think the capabilities and the talent or the mindset of regulations and the policymakers should be on that mindset of developing and being flexible and agile to develop these such innovation ideas on these such countries.
Absolutely. And Martin, I know you had something to add on what Lana and Sheikh Mohammed said.
I must say that the majority of all European cities are historical, with really ancient centers. And it's the first goal for us is to upgrade the old infrastructure for bigger capacity and also for higher speed. But on the other hand, I'm sure that it wouldn't be enough for the future. And the second issue will be to use all new data for better organization. And the third possibility or third way, it's to make the other organization of urban planning. And I'm sure that it's a very good example in Barcelona, which is really a historical city. And it's really a good example for the new urban planning, the approach, which is based on a human-centric approach, and I'm sure that it's the way for the future. Not only new technology, but also the other or changed approach to urban planning. And the final short note is about the role of state authorities. I'm sure that the state authorities aren't able to produce new innovation systems, but our key role is in preparing condition for better cooperation between state authorities and companies, and also research teams. And I'm sure that it's necessary also for the next 6 months of Czech presidency to make flexible approach to the regulation and to regulatory frame.
And Alvin, you work closely with the digital solution for the building sector, which goes back to the origin of the question. It's how can we really transform old cities into modern, new smart cities without having to build an entirely new city?
I would say that technology is so advanced that I think I like the way we think about 5G and like the way we think about connectivity, because back to the whole point, right? That ability to harness data, you unlock that value, and you want to be able to harness data from technology that we can bolt on with old cities. And here's what data does. Data translate to design or human-centric design, and design translate to new experiences, to new engagement, right? So it all starts with data. And I think to really transform cities and to digitize cities, you want to start thinking in small buckets rather than trying to say, I need to transform the whole thing, right? You want to choose a use case. You want to choose an area and say, can I digitize with existing technology that bolts onto the current infrastructure, harness the data, and begin to start the journey of the transformation from design to experience. I think that's the art of how do we start small, and that will trigger that playbook, that blueprint for a lot of other old infrastructure, and that's how we see it.
Great, thank you. Well, I do want to move on to a little bit of a different topic, and I'm a financial journalist. I work for Bloomberg, so that topic, as you may have guessed, is money. So when does, the thing I really want to focus on here is return on investment, and how often in, thinking so far ahead down the future and building smart city that, will improve human life, as we've been discussing, how often does the return on investment really pay off? And how big do companies, do governments have to go in order for it to really pay off? In the end of the day, we're a lot of us are in the business of making money. So if we can discuss that a little bit, Ghassan, maybe you can start us off.
Having Sheikh Hamad and Sheikh Mohammed, because the telco providers will play a big role monetizing, especially for hyperscalers, having the data and the analytics. There is a big opportunity on the enterprise market. So it's around $1 billion when it comes to really how we can benefit from the hyperscalers and the telco to really unleash a lot of different potential in the market. So the economy of scale is really big, and there are a lot of huge opportunities, especially when we will be leveraging the data. We have a lot of structured and unstructured data. How we can leverage it in the right way with the right use cases. It could be for a better citizen services, monetize it, and put it in the right place to be able to benefit to the max from it. So yeah, there is a huge opportunity we can benefit in the market for it.
Thank you so much. And I mean, we have a CFO with us, so I think you're very well poised to speak about money and how we can make it.
Thank you. I would hope so that we're able to do that. So for us, the sector that we play in, it's often called different names: transportation as a service, mobility as a service. It's a sector that's emerging. It's being created as we speak. But if you read some of the studies out there, it's $1 trillion sector. And it's completely going to redefine how city transportation and how trucking and freight is handled, presumably over time around the world. And I'd say there's two parts to it. The private sector part, we obviously think this is a very exciting opportunity to be able to create the efficiency that we're going to create in the transportation sector. We have investors who we hope are very successful in investing in us and others in the sector. But I think importantly for this conversation is the communities that we're going into, that there's a greater social payback that I think is very important, because again, we're taking advantage of the roads that everyone has access to. We're taking advantage of the infrastructure that cities put in place, and the V2X and the cellular infrastructure that can be very valuable in making our services more valuable. So we think we offer a good partnership to those geographies. We offer the ability for high-end engineering, high-end R&D, real artificial intelligence, deep tech type learning. We think there's a lot of interest in the communities that we talk to for the types of services that come along with mobility as a service. We think we offer their communities equitable and efficient and safe transportation. And we hope for the stakeholders that we have, our employees, our investors, that we are a very attractive return for them as well. But I think the point is that the innovations that come with the smart city, that come with artificial intelligence, that come with deep tech, creates huge pools of value, and they'll be shared. Some will be to the private sector, some will be to the community, some will be to the regulators and the state. And I think ideally there's enough value that gets created, that goes around, that it's a good outcome for everybody in all the communities in which we operate.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's the ideal future. I look over to Hamid. Siemens has an extensive history of return on money. So if you can walk us through what are the key takeaways in terms, in the context or the framework of our conversation of smart cities.
No, with smart cities, you create an environment which is then attractive for other investors to come in. If you create a platform where people feel safe, that their investments is secured, that they have an infrastructure that is enabling them to set up their factories, to set up the businesses, that also provides then the relevant level of education for the younger generation. Yeah, and if you are able to provide let's say Siemens, for example, is able to provide this technology, and then together with partners and with this ecosystem that we have already been discussing, that and the government coming into as well with generous contributions and regulatory framework, I think that is something which is crucial towards a successful smart city. You can have the nicest and best one, but if there is no investment coming in, if there is no people feel attractive to it, and people actually don't want to live in it because it's not really for humans, then you didn't do a good job. job. Yeah, so I think that is something that we are aiming for, and that we have also been able to showcase in some areas. Yeah.
And I think as reiterated, that, you know, well, we're coming up near the end of our conversation, unfortunately. So I do, before, you know, we wrap this up, I think what we really have to focus on is how we can make this transition sustainable. And I think each and every one here can have some input on how we can make this transition sustainable into smart cities. And I think it's almost synonymous to have a smart city that's sustainable and that's green. We can, I think, hear from everyone on this. We can start all the way back round. Sina, please start us off.
So I would say that what I really liked during these discussions is that we all agree that smart cities were about, you know, making sure that our cities were human-centric. So I think that for me, that's the most important thing to keep in mind every time we talk about smart cities. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Martin.
It will be really very shortly. I am sure that it's necessary to prepare open condition for cooperation of private sector and also the state authorities, and really to base this new future on innovations. It's key role of the new data security and also secure connectivity and new big data to the transport sector. And the final point is also to see wider the problem, also with the other approach to urban planning, and to make all cities which will be more for the people in this human-centric approach.
Thank you so much. Helmut, sustainability in smart cities.
Yeah, and this is the key topic, right? I mean, why would we look into smart cities if the sustainability is not on a core focus? So what I would wish for is that we also have the right level of financial contribution to actually afford it, to make it happen, that we get the concepts in place, we have the technology, and we just need to implement it and make sure that this is something that also then can be scaled up, be it in a brownfield, an existing cities, or also then in developments that are happening in the new area.
And for Ooredoo?
Yeah, I would see it as honestly, what would be the value proposition for the contributor? You know, when you talk about, let's say, the private sector or the public. So, for example, what is the value for the community, or for when the government, let's say, subsidize this type of partnership? Is the payback on the social, or the communities, and also from the investors or from private sectors who are investing or partnering? What would be how they monetize that data? Because when enhance better quality of life, I'm sure there will be distinguished, or the data can be monetized, and that's something when people use these type of services or very advanced technology, I'm sure there would be a proposition for that to be used, and that's something to make that sustainable. So you have to have the right infrastructure, right partnership among international, as I said, firms or consortium, as well as the private and public sector. That's how you make it appealing and sustainable, and also having improved quality of life and economical life. That would make it this is very sustainable. I would give an example about Ooredoo, for example. When we talk, let's say, about Sheikh Hamid mentioned about the some mobile money, or we have the Ooredoo money, where we can also serve the communities that unbanked communities, and that's something a sustainability of the community to make this accessible to them, and that's something where we as a private sector contribute to the communities and being accessible to people that they have no, let's say, basic services. That's, I would see it from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And in the transport sector, sustainability is always a very big question. How do you tackle that?
Yeah, I think that's so core and fundamental to what we offer. Probably almost everyone at this conference will leave this hotel and get in a car, and they'll sit in a traffic jam, and they'll be late to get home. and the car will be emitting CO2 into the atmosphere, and hopefully not, but they may pass a traffic accident on the way. What we're doing is addressing all of that. We will hopefully eliminate traffic jams and smooth the car park out and make it match the infrastructure of cities. The amount of CO2 that our smart vehicles and new fuel vehicles will take out of the air, it's millions and millions, but eventually of pounds of CO2. Eventually it'll be much more than that once this becomes prevalent. And the safety and the ability for people to get home efficiently in a green way, for goods to be transmitted. We have data on this. We know where this is going. And the point of what we're doing is to make a sustainable city of the future, for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alvin.
Yeah. So 40% of carbon footprint comes from buildings in any smart city. 27% comes from transport. 67% is what drives, this whole acceleration of digitization of any city, right? I mean, the moment you digitize, you can measure. And the moment you can measure, you can walk the journey towards net zero. So I think that's point number one. I think point number two, I think the future, I want to take it slightly different. It's skill transformation. And just to give you a quick sense, traditionally, we call facility managers and they kind of shine the torch. They look at, the HVAC and then they kind of do that. We need to transform into what I call experience hosts. It's all about human centricity. How do you create a new experience for buildings? Can we call, energy lead of energy managers for buildings become sustainability managers? So I think skill transformation has to be elevated. And when that happens, people, process, and technology will start to transform. So I would say that journey towards smart city, skill transformation is critical.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sheikh Hamad.
Okay. Smart city is all about sustainability in general and in almost in all verticals. However, the investment in a smart city should also be sustainable because, which takes me to cheat and answer your previous question, which is the return of investments. I wanted to answer it. So the answer is almost immediately if you choose the right use cases, not to use it just to be, for the sake of bragging about it. I'll give you an example, which is very important. If you manage, for example, to focus on traffic, and you manage to bring it down to 25%. It means much less, in expanding the streets, cutting times for the people to arrive to their work. This is almost immediately. 12 months or less, if you choose the right use case.
Thank you. I know that you were keen to answer it, so I'm glad you got your chance. Lana.
Thank you. Definitely sustainability across all aspects, because smart cities of the future should reveal an opportunity for a country, not an investment overhead on the country. And this is where smart cities of the future, if thought and designed properly, definitely will contribute to the economy, which is trillions of dollars to the GDP of any economy if used properly. It leads to employability and jobs of the future for the people and more digital natives or people who can employ for the future. And on transforming industries. But when we say transforming industries, okay, we don't want to use technology for the use of technology. We want to use technology to transform. And this is the key of technology. So we will not automate the current processes. We will not digitize the current processes. It's about re-engineering the current processes and re-engineering the business models. So for example, in smart buildings, just to go on smart buildings because we have two on the table, it is we need to come with new business models where people don't need, for example, to pay for reinventing a smart building. Maybe we can do smart building and offer it as a service where monthly fees can be deducted from their bills. So new business models need to come into the picture. This will reduce cost, will reduce on energy and contribute to sustainability. So this is where new use cases will literally empower the use cases of smart cities, but also empower sustainability. I just want to say that what does it mean for the government, but what does it mean for the people? What does it mean for the government is it means utilizing data for better data insights, and literally you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So this is why it is very critical. This is what drives sustainability targets and cascade on the right use cases and goals for a smart city. Number two is to efficiently manage operations. But what does it also mean for people? It's better quality of life, but more so trust and transparency. And this is why it is an opportunity for all rather than an overhead of investment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Ghassan, briefly wrap us up. What's
Yeah.
your vision of
So
sustainability?
quickly regarding the sustainability, as hyperscalers, we have a very important role. So when it comes to compute power, there is an increase when we talk about smart cities, then an increase in the compute power. And we need to take into consideration that we have a clean, sustainable agenda to make sure the energy increase is really very efficient. So this is something that we take very seriously at Google, the green and the sustainability, and especially that we'll be launching the region in Qatar to make sure we're decarbonizing the energy consumption and make sure we are operating as carbon neutral energy everywhere and 24/7. Coming back, sustainability will be important, but cost optimization also, and taking a very important role that when it comes to private and government sector, it's really very important to collaborate and understand the challenges and have hackathons and have a lot of different meetings to understand what are the challenges and how the cost optimization will happen to make a difference in this smart city and a lot of smart city initiatives. So looking forward for really to make a big difference in Qatar.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for your insight. I hope everyone learned something, and thank you for joining me to discuss the future of smart cities here at the Qatar Economic Forum. Have a great day.